Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rych. We have a very, very special guest on tonight, Isi Wasilewski from Germany. Did I get that right?
Yeah, nearly. It's Isi Wasilewski, but never mind.
Wasilewski. Okay, sorry. That's my American pronunciation. So it was part of Free Julian Assange movement in Germany. And I'm very excited to have you on today, Isi, because this is a very important issue that doesn't apply merely to one individual, namely Julian Assange, but has a ripple effect across a great many things in human rights across the world. Freedom of press is extremely important, whether it's stated explicitly in a constitution or not. The ability to watch a government's actions, to have transparency in a democracy is absolutely essential. And when a government starts taking that away, there needs to be all sorts of alarms going off. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Okay, good. So again, we said before the show, English is not Isi's first language. It's her second language, or maybe even third. I don't know. And I do have a tendency to talk fast, so don't be offended or don't be worried about telling me to slow down. And I just had an espresso. So anyway, why don't you tell us how the movement in Germany got started and how you got involved in it?
Yes, there have ever been always been supporters of WikiLeaks and Julian Assange in Germany, of course, but in the course of the year 2019, there was a kind of joining together of many supporters, because in 2019, in July, there was a big celebration of Julian's birthday. And it was celebrated around the globe, and several German cities did that celebrations. And they did free Assange actions on the 3rd of July. And after those actions, activists from Berlin had the idea to do that on a regular basis. So to do free Assange vigils and actions once a week, or at least once every other week. And that idea was very good. We liked that here in Western Germany. I live in Mönchengladbach in the west of Germany. And we started doing that as well. So Berlin started, and we have a free Assange vigil in Düsseldorf, and we jumped on it. And then there was the city of Frankfurt and Cottbus joining, and many, many other cities joined us in these regular vigils and free Assange actions. And yeah, this was a very prosperous movement, which goes on until today. And it's very, very important that we do that, because, as you said in the beginning, it's about our press freedom. It's about our right to know, and transparency for the government, and so many other aspects that are covered by this. And so here in the West, we do many free Assange vigils in Düsseldorf and in Cologne and in Bonn. You might know these cities in the USA, I'm not sure.
No, I've heard of them.
Yeah. So that's how it started and how it's going on. And yeah, we keep it going until Julian will be free.
Is it okay? So it sounds like it started in 2019 and it's gaining a lot of momentum in Germany.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it gaining similar momentum in any other European countries? Because I don't think in America most people care.
Okay, we are in contact with activists in London and in England, and also in Brussels and in Sweden. There's a very active group, and also Free Assange Italy. And yeah, in European countries, they get the idea and they understand how important this case is. Of course, there can be always more people, and we try to wake people up and to show how this case affects each and every one of us. It's not there is not one person on this planet who's not affected by this case, because it's about press freedom and our right to know. And we always say, if the journalists who tell the truth are put into prison and are silenced, what will you know? What will you know? What will you read in the news? What will you watch on TV? Can you be sure to watch the truth, to read the truth? But when those journalists speaking the truth are in jail.
No, that's a very good point. When any government, and no government is legitimate if it's not based on like the higher virtues or values of human identity, like truth and knowledge, justice, liberty, stuff like that. I mean, I know these are abstracts and they're kind of hard, they're very philosophically defined. I get that, but it's very important. These aren't just meaningless phrases that we throw around arbitrarily. When supposedly a democracy, a government based on a democracy, is hiding truth from its people, we got problems. We got big problems. Yes. And it happens, and every government probably does it to some extent. I mean, it's one of the reasons, governments are not necessarily a great idea, is because they have too much power. But anyway, well, that's another issue. But but it's encouraging to hear that it's widespread throughout Europe. That's really cool. Like, I'm glad to hear that it's happening in Italy, just personally, because my mother's from Italy. So that's very cool. Yeah, no, I visited Italy before, so it's nice to know that there's my ancestors, if you will, or my people are standing up for what's right. Because I'm like, you don't see a lot of it here. You see some of it here in the States for sure, but not a lot. The media certainly responded to it because it's their neck that's on the line. But I mean, it doesn't strike me as like the general public cares very much over here. So that's great. Good for you. How is your government reacting to your protests, your momentum?
Yeah, maybe you know about the special rapporteur on torture, Professor Nils Melzer.
No, but okay.
Okay. He's working for the UN. That is, he was from 2016 until 2022, and he spoke to the German government directly, and he sent him reports. He sent reports about his meeting with Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison, and he found that Julian is being tortured there.
Whoa!
Yes. And he made very exquisite reports about that, very detailed. And the German government didn't quite respond to that. And they said that they didn't read the reports and that they trust in a British rule of law. And that's about it. There isn't anything more that the German government is saying publicly. I don't know what they do behind the scenes. Maybe they're active, I don't know. But they didn't respond to Professor Melzer's report. And also they were invited for a conference already in fall of 2019. And unfortunately, none of the German government officials took part in that conference. Nils Melzer was invited in the parliament, in the German parliament, in the Bundestag, by the political party Die Linke, which means the left. And he spoke there, and many officials by the party Die Linke, who are very supportive of Julian. They are really doing what they can. And he reported about his meeting, about his findings, about what this case means for our rule of law. And as I said, none of the German government officials took notice of this conference, which is really a pity because it's also affecting the German government. So we try to be vocal. We have petitions addressing the German government, and we invite them to become active. And we keep on doing that because it's really important. And for me as a German, it's also a chance because you might know about German history. and Germans
mostly mid 20th century, but yeah.
Yeah. I think German governments have made many mistakes in the beginning of the 20th century, especially. And this could be a chance. This could be a chance for Germany to say, yes, we see that Great Britain is torturing a journalist in jail, and we get vocal about this. We say, please, stop torturing Julian Assange, set him free. These are human rights abuses, and Germany won't just watch this. Germany is vocal and fights for human rights. So this is something we want from the German government, and we try. We keep on trying.
And that's really all you can do at this point is you keep on, shy of becoming violent. All you can do is keep petitioning and sounding the alarm and bringing awareness to the issue. So hopefully it kind of seeps into the minds of the government, the people who have the political power, and they end up doing the right thing. Because as you said, like before the show, how your foreign ministers of the Green Party there, and before becoming foreign minister, professed to being on the side of freeing Julian Assange, yes. And then after becoming foreign minister, changed her tune. Because I think that when you get into politics, I think you get like trapped by the political structure that's already established. I see it happen in American politics too. People make campaign promises, get in, and don't have any opportunity to do it because they just can't. So does that make them liars? Yeah, kind of. I mean, because they should know better about what they're getting into. But anyway, why are governments so afraid of him? Can you give it a couple examples of what besides Hillary Clinton's emails, because that's just a farce. Okay, that's not a big deal. But why national security and that kind of thing? Why do governments fear him so much?
Julian Assange is a symbol of transparency, and his most famous revelation are probably the Iraq war logs and Afghanistan war logs and the video Collateral Murder, you might know. And I think it's for governments, it's hard to see that their mistakes and also more than mistakes, also human rights violations are put out there and a spotlight is put on them. And maybe that's because they are not really a fan of Julian Assange. But I think you need to take a look at these human rights violations on a systematic basis. It's not that there are some incidents like the Collateral Murder incident that are just taking place once in a war or something. It's on a regular basis. Human rights violations happen, and we have to take a look at that in order to prevent that things like that happen in the future. So it's really important, even if it hurts, to take a look at that and to consider how we can do better. And maybe that's a reason. I'm not sure about that.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, the fact of the matter, I mean, it's exposing them for what they've done. That is probably what they're fearing. Now they're going to again categorize that or classify that as national security. The fact of the matter is that he's a hacker, a computer hacker, and has a team of hackers that hacked into, encrypt or secured areas of the United States government, including the Pentagon, I'm assuming, to get this war information that they deem, illegal. And that's one of the charms, and I'm being sarcastic, of a government is whatever they write down as illegal magically becomes so. There's no real objective standard. It's only their own asses that they're trying to cover. But the fact of the matter is when your government, especially on your tax dollar, is committing human atrocities across the globe, we should know about that so we can make decisions based on that for the kind of politicians we put into office next round. Agreed?
Yes. But you have to be careful about that, because he's not accused of hacking. He's accused
Okay.
of publishing the truth. If you just put it shortly, he was a hacker when he was younger, but now it's basically about the publications he did about the Iraq and Afghanistan war. And
Okay, well, that's interesting. But okay, so there's nothing about his computer skills that are listed as his legal offenses.
there is one charge about a so-called computer intrusion.
Okay.
But it's actually only that he helped Chelsea Manning, who was his source, the WikiLeaks source, to cover her traces. And
Gotcha.
there was no need of hacking, because Chelsea Manning had the information, so they didn't need to hack anything. And this covering of traces didn't even work. So it's a kind of a common misunderstanding about the case.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I always thought that, at least in part, it was because of hacking the government's stuff. But if it's straightforward, straight up journalism that they're attacking them, then that's even a bigger issue. I mean, I like anonymous, and I'm all for people hacking, government, anything. If it's pure, just good old fashioned journalism that they're attacking, oh man, that's crazy.
And that's why, some weeks ago, there was a great action by the 5 big media companies who worked together with WikiLeaks. It's Der Spiegel in Germany, New York Times, and Guardian, Le Monde, and El País. They published an open letter asking the US government to drop the charges and to free Julian Assange, because it's really affecting everybody who's publishing. It's affecting these 5 big media outlets, but it's affecting every journalist on this planet, and also independent journalists. If you do a blog, if you publish something, you will be affected by this. It means when they charge Julian Assange for publishing, they can charge everybody, and around the globe. It doesn't matter if you live in Uzbekistan or in Turkey or in Indonesia. They can just grab you out of your country and charge you for doing journalism. And this is why this case is so important. And you are right. You have to be worried about it. We have to be worried about it. We have a blog here in Germany. We are publishing as well. So we are fighting for our rights.
Your volume went down a little bit. Is there any way you can turn it up? Your mic volume.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, I mean, I could still hear you. I just noticed it went down a little.
Is it better now?
No, still the same.
Okay.
While you're dealing with that, I'll say a couple things. No, that's true. That journalism is and free press is under attack, and law is oftentimes based, or judicial cases are based on precedent. Are you there? I think we lost her for a second. Technical difficulties, people. Please stand by.
Okay, I just tried.
Yeah, that's better.
Is it better? Okay.
A little bit, yeah. All right, cool. So, okay, what was I saying? Because judicial cases are oftentimes determined by precedent in law and cases. So, like you're saying, if this is allowed to stand, it sets a precedent for the future. Oh well, you arrested Julian Assange on this, and you consider that to be a legal move. Now I can arrest David Rych because he's exposing things in Illinois or whatever, that kind of thing. And that's obviously not okay. So this is a very dangerous situation for a lot of people, like you said. I mean, globally, because I mean, isn't Assange from like Australia or something?
Yes, he is. He's
Yeah. So okay,
Australian.
then but the United States is like wants him on trial, and other countries want him on trial, and he was in the Ecuadorian. Oh, this is a good segue. He was in the Ecuadorian embassy in England, and that's what gave him these legal protections. That the government in England couldn't touch him because of there was no extradition treaties with Ecuador. How did they actually? Did they just finally say screw it, we're taking him out, or did they find some legal loophole to get around in order to get him out of the Ecuadorian embassy?
Yes, that's a very good question. He has been there for nearly 7 years, and in 2017, the Ecuadorian government changed, and from that, they tried to get rid of him from that point in time, and they imposed very restrictive rules on him, like nobody actually could live up to these rules. And they tried to get him out of this embassy. And in 2019, they just revoked his asylum from one day to the other. There was no time for him to appeal to that decision or anything. It was just 1 or 2 hours after this decision that the police stepped into the Ecuadorian embassy, and they really dragged him out of there. And this is also an aspect of this case which is very important, because his right to asylum has been severely violated. And I hope this won't be a precedent for other cases. But as an asylee, you must have something you must be able to rest on that asylum, to trust that the government giving you asylum won't make up their mind and just expel you from one day to the other. But that's exactly what happened. And he didn't have the chance to appeal. And then the Ecuadorians allowed the British police inside. And maybe you saw the pictures of Raptly, the only outlet who covered this, dragging him out of this embassy. And this is really what shocked me, because there is no right of asylum. If this can happen to Julian Assange, this can also happen to everybody. And it's really shocking what was happening there.
Yeah, no, I remember the video footage of them dragging him out, and it was just awful. It was brutal. Very, very uncomfortable to watch.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so like Edward Snowden is also a part of this general. He's not the press. He was a military officer or personnel who leaked a bunch of things about the military, and they're after him too. I think he's in Russia now. But same basic idea. It's just transparency of the government to the public. And by definition, constitutional definition of a journalist would be anybody who wants to find out something. Like I watch a lot of videos of journalists going around confronting police on the streets in America, making sure that they're doing things right. And the cops will approach them and like, do you have a press pass? He's like, I don't need a press pass. Anybody counts as the press, and according to the Constitution. But a lot of cops don't know that. So they end up arresting him anyway, and then the person gets let go, and the cop gets sued, and blah, blah, blah. It's a mess of a thing. How is freedom of press treated in Germany generally? Like, is it something like in America, it's a big deal. I don't think the general public cares. But I mean, the media, the journalists themselves care a great deal about that protection. Is that the same way in Germany?
It's of course it's a very important matter, freedom of the press. I'm not sure that every journalist here in Germany understands the importance of the case of Julian Assange. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point. I mean, so like, I mean, can you speak more as to like how the press in Germany or in Europe in general are responding to this one particular case?
There are very many independent media responding to that, which is very, very important. And there's a very good covering from not only from German media, but internationally. Yeah, during the course of time, I think in the last couple of years here in Germany, I think more media outlets understood the importance of the case, but it's still not satisfyingly covered.
Right.
So if they really understood the importance, they would be reporting on a daily basis, because it really affects them in their very fundamental rights, in their right of press freedom. So they would be reporting more, I think. But there are already some very good articles, and also in mainstream media. In Germany, there is, for example, the Berliner Zeitung. It's an outlet reporting on Julian, and yeah, other more.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, because I don't know to what extent press is respected in whatever countries. I only know about some of it in America. So okay, very cool. What was I going to ask you?
But as maybe I can jump in here.
Yeah.
You were talking about the Ecuadorian embassy, and one thing I'd like to mention is that Julian Assange was really spied on in the Ecuadorian embassy. I don't know if you heard about that, but the security firm of who was a contractor of the Ecuadorian embassy installed cameras and microphones inside the Ecuadorian embassy, and he was spied on by them around the clock. So 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They spied on what he was doing, and also about his legal talks he had with his lawyers, and also the meetings he had with his doctors and with friends visiting him inside the embassy, with journalists. But the most important things are these legal talks that were spied upon by UC Global, and we have much reason to think that these conversations were forwarded to the US, and probably to the US intelligence contractors. And this is so important because during the show trial, the US side had the chance to use these recordings to prepare their case. And this is such a breaking of the rule of law. It's such a fundamental principle of rule of law that one side in a legal case cannot spy on the legal talks of the other side. And this rule was really violated. But this didn't lead to the stopping of this show trial. It just went on as if nothing had happened. And it's really unbelievable. What is
It is
happening?
unbelievable.
It's really unbelievable.
Because what do you do as a citizen when your government breaks its own laws?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can technically take the government to court or government officials and so on. That takes forever, and that doesn't necessarily change the patterns of behavior that government officials or employees, if you will, are committing these illegalities, and it's very frustrating. Because they have just so much power to kind of get away with some shenanigans, at least for a while, and then deal with maybe a couple of softer consequences at the end of it. But they've already accomplished what they wanted to do, which was in fact illegal in the first place. So how do you stop that? I don't know. But
what you are doing is already a very good way to deal with it. just to take a look at it, to talk about it, to publish it, and to report it on your show. So we have to try to inform as many people as possible. And these people have to use their voices as well. So we get louder and louder by becoming more and more voices, like a choir or something. I think this is the kind of momentum we try to build to become more and more people. And it's really fascinating that really every voice counts. You can talk about, you can inform your neighbors, people around you, your colleagues, just your circle of friends, everybody. You can talk about what is going on and become a little tiny media outlet yourself. And I think this is a way of dealing with these illegalities, as you said.
Yeah.
And we have the power to do that, and
Absolutely.
everybody has the power. We just need to realize what we can do.
That's right. And what you're referring to is the importance of freedom of press and communication amongst the populace. And it's all based on the truth, and trying to expel falsity from our discourse. So, speaking of it, you mentioned his lawyers. While he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. Do you know anything about the legal counsel he has now, what they're saying? Who is right now trying him? And in what court? Is it England's court? Or yes. Is it an international court? Or
no, right now, but there was a show trial in 2020 who went on for several months. And at first, there was a verdict of District Judge Vanessa Baritza on January 4th, 2021. And she ruled that he won't be extradited. But in every aspect of the US side of the US charge, she agreed with the US side. And this is a very important ruling in a negative way, because actually what this verdict says is that publishing is a crime. If you break it down to the very basis, this is what it said. And the only positive aspect was that Julian wouldn't be extradited. But then the US side appealed to that. And on December the 10th, 2021, this appeal was granted, and so it said that he can be extradited. And this process was dragged on. There were other appeals, and now at the stage we are now, he made an application, a very last application for an appeal, to appeal to the Supreme Court. So, and now we are waiting for this application to be decided. So he might appeal to the Supreme Court if they allow him to do it. This is the highest court in Great Britain. And this decision can come any day now, but we have been waiting for several weeks now for this decision. And I don't hope so, but if they don't grant him this appeal, he can still go to the European Court of Human Rights, which is in Strasbourg. And actually, it could be that the European Court for Human Rights rules in favor of him, but the problem is that it can take a long, long time. And he's really very, very sick. Professor Niels Melzer reported about that. His physics is in a bad shape, and also his psychological situation is not the best. And it's really a question of time. And he doesn't have so much time left, because inside this prison, there are horrendous circumstances. He lives more than 23 hours a day in isolation.
Oh.
He's isolated, so no human contact. And this is one aspect which is really endangering his life now. But there are many, many others. And so it's about time. And
why would they put him in solitary confinement? He's not physically dangerous to anybody.
No, he isn't. And he is in, moreover, he's in the most restrictive prison of the whole of Great Britain. It's usually they put terrorists and murderers and
right.
the worst persons you can imagine they put inside there. And Julian Assange, who has committed no crime, he's not serving any sentence. When they put him there in 2019, he was convicted for, now I only remember the German term, but he was convicted for, he should be there for 50 weeks. And when he finished that sentence, they just kept him there. They didn't allow him to leave the prison. And his sentence was finished in September 2019, because in Great Britain, sentences that are shorter than 1 year, they are cut into half. So it's only 6 months he had to spend there. But after that, they just kept him there because they said he might escape. And but this is not very likely for many reasons. One is that his shape is really so bad, he couldn't stand a chance of fleeing or escaping. Then his family is living in London, so he's not interested in leaving Great Britain at all. He has a wife, he has 2 young children.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they are aged 3 and 5 years. And
so while he was in the Ecuadorian embassy, he got married and had kids?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And the marriage was only 1 year ago or so. Okay. And the kids, Stella, his wife, and him, they decided to have kids in a situation where it looked like that he might be free. So, you can, Stella talks about this in the movie Ithaca. It's a documentary by Julian's brother, Gabriel Shipton. He's the producer. And Ben Lawrence did shoot the movie. And there was a tour. I don't know about the situation in the US. I'm not sure about that. But you can watch this movie and learn a lot of important details about the case of Julian Assange. It's really very emotional and interesting. I can only recommend it.
I'll have to check it out for sure. Ithaca, okay.
Yes.
So, okay, can you tell us any more about his brother, and besides the documentary, what else he's doing concerning this? Because I didn't know that.
Yeah. Gabriel Shipton, he's his brother, and he's a filmmaker, so he thought about how he could help Julian best, and then he decided to do this documentary. And in this documentary, they accompany his wife, Stella, and his father, John Shipton, over the course of 2 years, I think. And you can watch them in their fight for Julian. It's really emotional. And of course, you have to be strong to watch it, because it's not easy.
No, for sure.
But it's important that we learn about what is going on. It doesn't help to just ignore when something bad happens. You have to take a look at it and try to make it better, I think.
This is interesting too, because we're talking, I'm thinking of different like scholars, academicians, journalists, so on, that have exposed like war crimes and human rights atrocities committed by specifically the American government And the couple I can think of right now never got in any legal trouble for it. Noam Chomsky, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Yeah, he's kind of a big deal. Now he's the father of modern day linguistics, so we'll start there. And he's also just he's called the America's conscience because he's just constantly calling out the government and stuff. He's exposed all sorts of things, and as far as I know, he got arrested for protesting the Vietnam War. That was a brief little stint in a local jail. I'm not aware of any legal charges against him for exposing these things. So, like, why Julian Assange and not Noam Chomsky? Do you think?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Actually, Noam Chomsky is a very vocal supporter of Julian.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm not expecting you to have an answer. It just occurred to me how peculiar that is. It could be because of the mass scale that Julian is. Like WikiLeaks is a mass scale thing, and it's constantly generating new stories. Maybe they consider that to be a greater threat than, say, Noam Chomsky, who's one person. Even though Noam Chomsky is also greatly referred to by a lot of people, because the amount of facts he gets about and nuances and details of stories concerning government's dealings in the world that other people can't get to, because he's just like a master at research.
Yeah, but maybe there is also another reason, because recently, just very few weeks ago, Daniel Ellsberg came out and said, I have information too, which is relevant here, which I got from Julian. And if you indict Julian Assange, you have to indict me as well. And
I heard about that. Yeah, that was cool.
Sorry, this will take the case to the US Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
This is totally different than what is happening to Julian, because Julian would be indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia. And this is a district where rule of law really doesn't take place, if you want to put it that way, because the jury will consist of at least 85% of members of the FBI, of Homeland Security, of the Department of Defense, of intelligence services, So Julian
government lovers.
Yes, because all of these officials, all of these, Homeland Security, and they are in this district, and so he wouldn't stand a chance of a fair trial there. It's absolutely impossible to have a fair trial.
Right.
John Kiriakou, who is a whistleblower himself, says no person has ever been walked out of that as a free man or woman. It's absolutely impossible to have a free trial there.
Interesting. Wow, that's crazy.
So, and if Daniel Ellsberg is indicted, the Supreme Court will be something totally different. So, I think this is really a great help he offered for Julian. And it's something other journalists could do as well if they are courageous and want to put themselves out there. But I think they should, because in the end, it's about themselves. It's, as we said in the beginning, it's about press freedom and about their possibility to publish also inconvenient truth.
Yeah, no, I love that phrase. That was brilliant of Al Gore in his documentary about climate change, An Inconvenient Truth. Because oftentimes truths, spoken to governments are inconvenient for governments. Yeah, and I tell you what, as somebody who does like shows like this and does some investigating on my own, and I want to do a new sort of project, a journalistic project, and it's actually calling out local police and stuff like that. And I got a little bit of me is afraid. I really am, that I'm going to piss one of them off and they're going to put me in jail, and I don't want to go to jail. That kind of thing. But because I know that they, on a personal level, they won't respect my freedom of the press. Because like I said, a lot of them don't even understand it. Or they think it's some sort of passe thing that only was important to the founding fathers 250 years ago and isn't important anymore. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hope
So anyway,
it won't happen to you. I really cross my fingers for you that everything goes fine. But
thank you. Well, if you don't hear from me in a month, then something went wrong. But anyways,
no.
no, we'll see. I have to figure out like a strategy of how to like tread softly, so because I do not. I'm a very big fan of my liberty and my freedom, and I do not want to go to jail. Especially over something.
Who wants to?
Right, exactly. Well, some people don't have lives. But okay, so got a few minutes left here. Anything else you want to bring up that you think is important to talk about the movement there?
I just again, thank you for having me, and I just really want to invite everybody to take a look into that case, because it affects everybody of us, and the really happy message I have for you is you can change the world if you want to. You just have to take a step and be active, and I think this is really a very positive thing which I gained for myself from this movement, that I realize what everybody of us can do, and this is very nice. And if we act together, we really can change something. So and if you speak German, take a look at our website. It's www.freeassange.eu. It's mostly in German. There are some English parts, but maybe some of you speak German, so we would be glad to welcome you as visitors on our website. And take a look in Niels Melzer's book. It's called The Trial of Julian Assange. Actually, I have it here, I think. Yeah. I hope you can read it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes. It really, everything you need to know is in this book, and I can only recommend to read it and to inform yourself and to get active. That's it.
Wikileaks is still up and running, right?
Yes, it is. Sometimes there are troubles, but of course it's still running, and also it's so important. You can find so many information on Wikileaks. You can watch Collateral Murder, but when there are you want to find something about your politicians, take a look at Wikileaks. There are so many things you can use also in your political actions. So it's really a trove of information, and we are so lucky to have it, and we have to be so thankful for Wikileaks. It really, I think when journalists really understood what is happening at Wikileaks, it could change the whole world, because there is so important information in this. So just Absolutely. Take a look at it and find it for yourself.
All right, well, that's fabulous. And so I just want to reiterate and emphasize to the viewers here the importance of a free press, the importance of the people from the citizenry of any given government to see to find transparency in their government. Democracies can't function without a sufficiently educated, informed public. It won't work. And journalism is at the forefront of making sure that happens. Now, there are certain different, we have issues here, and probably in most countries with the free press, of like our mainstream media, so CNN and Fox being kind of lame. But there's all sorts of opportunities for all sorts of great, accurate information nowadays. You're not going to be bold-faced lied to all the time on the mainstream medias, but you're going to probably not get as much of the facts and truths as you could in other outlets. And there's all sorts of opportunities out there. So check that out. Okay, well, thank you so much, Isi Wasilewski, right? Got it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is a fabulous conversation, and it is a very important issue. And we're going to just have to have you on again and talk more about it as the trial proceeds and that kind of thing.
Yes, for sure. I'll be happy to meet you again. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and all the best for you. Stay out of jail.
Thank you. I'll try my best. So anyway, all right, you take care. Everybody, thank you for tuning into the Illinois Green Party. I'm your host, David Rych. Till next time, be good, be green.